The quiet man in the corner. It was a chilly Friday evening, and the school auditorium buzzed with laughter and nervous whispers. The annual spring talent show was about to begin. Rows of folding chairs filled quickly as students, parents, and teachers shuffled in with popcorn and paper programs in hand. The stage lights flickered as a last-minute tech check took place. Backstage, chaos reigned, costumes flying, makeup smudging, guitars being tuned off-key. In the farthest corner of the backstage area sat a man on a crate. Dressed in a simple black hoodie and faded jeans, he wore a beanie pulled low over his forehead and had a calm, almost invisible presence. No one seemed to notice him. Some assumed he was part of the janitorial crew, or maybe a technician waiting to help with the sound setup. That man was Keanu Reeves. He had agreed to attend the show quietly after a teacher named Mrs. Lennox, who once helped him during a tough time, invited him. Her son, Josh, was performing tonight, and she said the auditorium could use a little extra kindness. Keanu didn't want to be the center of attention, so he arrived early and stayed behind the scenes, quietly observing. Most of the students didn't recognize him. Some who did thought it couldn't possibly be the Keanu Reeves. What would a Hollywood star be doing at a school talent show? Then came Ben and Travis. Ben was the class clown, always loud, always joking, and often at someone else's expense. Travis followed him around like a shadow, laughing too hard at jokes that weren't really funny. As they passed by Keanu, Ben elbowed Travis and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, look at this guy. You think he's here to fix the toilet or something?" Keanu looked up, smiled gently, and said nothing. That only made Ben smirk more. "Yo," Ben shouted toward the show coordinator. "We've got a last-minute act. This guy's gonna play guitar. I mean, if he knows how, right?" The coordinator, overwhelmed by the lineup and short on time, glanced at Keanu and shrugged. "Sure, we've got a slot open after intermission." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Me? Yeah," Ben laughed. "Let's see what the mystery man can do." People nearby chuckled. A few students rolled their eyes, thinking it was just another one of Ben's pranks. Keanu's name wasn't on the roster. No one expected anything special. They figured he might strum a few chords and embarrass himself, maybe even walk off the stage. Ben wanted to turn him into a joke, but Keanu simply nodded. "All right," he said softly. "I'll play." Mrs. Lennox, who had heard the commotion, came over with a concerned look. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. But Keanu just smiled. "Maybe this is exactly what I need to do." He walked over to a small guitar case he had carried in. It was old, worn, and covered in stickers from places around the world. Inside was a classic black Fender guitar, carefully tuned and shining despite its age. Keanu ran his fingers over the strings gently, like greeting an old friend. Meanwhile, word had spread among the students. The man in the hoodie was going to perform. Some said he looked like that actor. Others said he must be a street musician. The guesses got more ridiculous as the evening went on. Nobody took it seriously. The talent show began with excitement. A sixth grader did a magic trick that went wrong, but still got laughs. A nervous duo sang a pop song off-key, but received warm applause. Josh, Mrs. Lennox's son, performed a drum solo that left his mom glowing with pride. After intermission, as the lights dimmed again, the host grabbed the mic and said, "Next up, someone unexpected. Give it up for Keanu." The crowd clapped lightly, mostly confused. Keanu stepped onto the stage slowly. He didn't say a word. He pulled a stool to the center, sat down, and adjusted the mic in front of him. He looked out at the sea of faces, some curious, some smirking, some not paying attention at all. He closed his eyes, and then he began to play. The first few notes were soft, delicate, almost like whispers. His fingers danced across the strings with a tenderness that hushed the room instantly. There was no backing track, no flash, no fancy effects, just pure, heartfelt sound. His guitar sang a melody that felt like home, like pain and healing all in one. It was slow, soulful, and raw. People who had been chatting froze. The smirks faded. Even Ben and Travis sat stunned, their mouths open. Every note from Keanu's guitar told a story, A story of loss, of growing up lonely, of finding beauty in simple things. He didn't need to speak, his music did it all. In the back row, a girl started crying quietly. In the front, a boy held his dad's hand a little tighter. Mrs. Lennox clutched her chest, tears in her eyes. Even the janitor, who had been sweeping behind the curtain, stopped to listen. When the last note faded, the silence was so deep you could hear the breath of the audience. Keanu looked up, gave a small nod, and walked off the stage. No bows. No thanks, just peace. Then the entire auditorium erupted in applause. Standing ovation. People were cheering, whistling, clapping like they never had before. Someone in the crowd shouted, "That was beautiful," and others echoed it. Ben and Travis looked like they'd seen a ghost. They didn't know what to say. Keanu went back to his corner, packed his guitar, and gave Mrs. Lennox a warm hug. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled and said, "It wasn't for them. It was for me." But deep down he knew it had become something much more. Whispers and ripples. The next morning, the school was buzzing like never before. Students gathered in small circles, whispering and wondering. Some still weren't sure what had happened the night before. Others were replaying the moment over and over in their minds. Was that really Keanu Reeves? One girl asked, balancing her tray at lunch. He looked just like him, her friend replied. But why would he be here? Teachers were talking about it too. Mr. Dillon, the music teacher, sat quietly in the staff room, still thinking about the way the guitar sang under Keanu's fingers. It was more than talent. It was soul, emotion. It was something he tried to teach for years and rarely saw. Keanu didn't return that morning. In fact, no one knew if he'd even come back at all. Some thought he had vanished. Some wondered if he was ever really there. But in one small classroom on the second floor, Mrs. Lennox knew the truth. She was grading papers when her son, Josh, knocked softly and came in. "Mom," he said, "was that really him? Keanu Reeves?" She smiled. "Yes, Josh, it was." He sat on the edge of her desk. "Why'd he come here?" Mrs. Lennox leaned back. "Years ago, before he was famous, he lost someone very close to him. It broke him. Back then, I was just a college volunteer. We met by chance. I gave him a sandwich and let him talk. He never forgot that. Last week, I wrote him a letter, told him about the talent show. I didn't think he'd actually come." Josh sat silently. "He didn't come for attention." "No," she said. "He came to feel human again." Meanwhile, Ben and Travis were having their own crisis. They sat behind the gym, away from the others, trying to make sense of what happened. "Dude, we made fun of him," Travis whispered. Ben rubbed his face. "We didn't just make fun. We set him up. We wanted him to fail." Travis looked guilty. "But he didn't. He blew everyone away." Ben didn't answer. Something about that performance had rattled him. Not just the music but the silence, the dignity, the way Keanu said nothing, yet said everything. Ben had grown up needing to be loud to feel seen, but Keanu didn't need noise. And that made Ben feel small. Later that afternoon, a video of the performance began to spread. Someone in the audience had recorded it on their phone. No one asked for permission. They just uploaded it to a social platform with the title, "Mystery Man Plays Guitar at School. Talent Show." Crowd goes silent. Within a few hours, the video had thousands of views. Then tens of thousands. Comments started pouring in. "This isn't just music. This is emotion. Who is this man? Why does this feel like he's telling my story? I cried and I don't even know why. If that's Keanu Reeves, the world doesn't deserve him." It didn't take long before people confirmed it was indeed him. Keanu Reeves at a school talent show, playing his soul through an old guitar. The media caught wind, but Keanu stayed quiet. He didn't release a statement. He didn't post about it. No photos, no follow-ups. He just disappeared from the spotlight once again. But the ripples didn't stop. At the school, something began to shift. Students, who had always stayed silent during assemblies, started signing up for music classes. Shy kids walked up to the mic during open sessions. One boy who stuttered found the courage to sing for the first time. A girl who had never spoken in public read a poem she had hidden for years. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They just wanted to be heard. Keanu's silence had somehow unlocked their voices. Mrs. Lennox called it the ripple of stillness. But Ben couldn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the melody from the performance still playing in his mind. He remembered Keanu's eyes, calm but heavy, kind but distant. Not once had he raised his voice, not once had he fought back, yet somehow he'd won everything. The next day, Ben walked into Mrs. Lennox's classroom. She was surprised to see him. "Ben," he stood awkwardly, eyes down. "I want to talk about him." She nodded and pulled out a chair. "I messed up," he said quietly. "I tried to humiliate someone who didn't deserve it." "Why do you think you did that?" she asked softly. Ben didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I thought it would make me feel big, and did it?" He shook his head. "No, it made me feel empty." Double quotes. Mrs. Lennox reached for a paper and wrote something down. She handed it to Ben. "What's this?" he asked. "An address," she said. "It's a community center. Keanu visits sometimes. They don't talk about it publicly. But if you show up and help out, you might see him." Ben's eyes widened. "And if you do," she continued, "don't ask for photos, don't ask for stories. Just listen." That evening, Ben skipped his usual hangout time with Travis. He rode his bike across town, heart pounding, unsure if this was a mistake. He reached the small gray building. Simple, no sign, just a door. Inside, a few volunteers were serving food to people in need. Some were sweeping, some were folding clothes. There was laughter, but not much noise. And there, at the back table, sat Keanu. He was listening to an elderly man talk about his dog. He looked up for a second and saw Ben. He smiled, not a smirk, not sarcasm. Just a gentle, knowing smile. Ben froze. He walked slowly toward the table. Keanu stood, extended his hand, and said one word, "Welcome." Asterisk strings of apology. Ben didn't know how long he stood there holding Keanu's hand, but it felt like time had slowed. There were no cameras, no phones, no crowd, just quiet people doing small things that mattered. It wasn't what Ben was used to. This wasn't a world built on popularity, laughter from jokes, or mocking someone weaker. Here, everyone mattered. Keanu gestured toward a folding chair. "Sit," he said gently. Ben sat down across from him. For a while, they just listened to the elderly man finish his story about his dog named Milo. Ben nodded politely, unsure if he should say something now or wait. Keanu turned toward him after the man walked away. "So," he said softly, "what brings you here?" Ben's voice cracked a little. "I wanted to say sorry for what I did at the show." Keanu looked at him, calm and still. "You tried to make me a joke," he said. Ben winced. "I know. I thought it would be funny." "Was it?" "No," Ben whispered. "Not even a little." Keanu leaned back, his fingers gently resting on the edge of the table. "Why do you think you did it?" Ben looked down. "I guess I wanted people to laugh. I wanted to feel important." Keanu nodded. "And did it work?" For a second, Ben said, "But then you started playing, and I felt like everything I did before that was stupid." Keanu gave a soft chuckle. "It wasn't stupid. It was lost." Ben looked confused. "People don't act out because they're bad," Keanu continued. "They act out because something inside is missing. Noise becomes a way to fill the silence. I know that feeling too well." Double quotes. Ben looked at him wide-eyed. But you're you." Keanu smiled. "I used to be angry. I pushed people away. I made jokes so I wouldn't cry. I wore masks so no one would see how broken I was. It took me a long time to stop hiding. But now you don't hide." "I still do," Keanu said gently, just in quieter ways. For a while, they didn't speak. The sounds of chairs dragging, dishes clinking, and light laughter filled the space. Then Keanu stood up and said, "Come with me." Ben followed him through a narrow hallway to a small storage room in the back. It was filled with shelves of canned food, worn coats, and a single guitar hanging on the wall. Keanu reached up and took the guitar down. He handed it to Ben. "Play something," he said. Ben blinked. "Me? Yeah, just a few chords." Ben hesitated. "I only know a little. I never really took it seriously." That's okay, just play. Ben strummed awkwardly, his fingers stumbled. The sound was uneven and clunky, but Keanu just nodded. Good, he said. You're not pretending. Ben laughed nervously. That sounded awful. No, Keanu replied. It sounded honest. Then Keanu sat down and showed him a simple progression. Slow, patient, no judgment. They practiced together for almost an hour, and slowly, Ben's confidence started to grow. His hands relaxed. His breathing slowed. For the first time in a long while. He wasn't trying to be funny. He was just present. As the evening ended, Keanu said, "Come back next week." Ben nodded, holding the borrowed guitar in both hands. "I will." That night, Ben didn't tell anyone what happened. Not his parents, not Travis. He didn't post it online. He didn't take a photo. It felt sacred, something too meaningful for the internet to understand. But he did one thing. He pulled out his phone, opened a blank note, and wrote, "Kindness is louder than laughter." Over the next few days, Ben kept returning to the community center. He swept floors, served soup, folded coats, and sat with people who had stories no one else listened to. And every time he came, Keanu was there, sometimes talking, sometimes just listening. Each time, Ben learned something new. Like how silence could heal. How music didn't need words. And how apology wasn't about fixing the past but building the future. Meanwhile, at school, Travis noticed the change. "Yo, where you been?" he asked one afternoon. "Just around," Ben said. "You hanging with that guy?" Ben hesitated. Then he nodded. Travis scoffed. "Man, you know people are still talking about that video. It's got, like, 1,000,000 views now." "It's not about the views," Ben replied. Travis rolled his eyes. "Whatever." But Ben wasn't trying to impress Travis anymore. The video had gone viral. Celebrities began sharing it. Music blogs wrote think pieces about the emotion behind the performance. But Keanu didn't respond. He ignored every press request. And when reporters came to the school, Mrs. Lennox refused to give interviews. "Some stories aren't meant to be sold," she told them. But not everyone respected that. A young entertainment blogger named Jessica found Ben near the school gate. "Hey, you were the kid who introduced Keanu on stage, right?" she asked with a fake smile. Ben froze. Got a minute for a quick interview?" Ben shook his head. "No thanks." "Come on," she pressed. "The world wants to know what really happened." Ben paused, then looked her in the eye, then let the world listen to the song, and he walked away. The next week, something incredible happened. Keanu brought Ben to a different part of the community center, a quiet music room, with old speakers, scattered cables, and 2 microphones. "What's this?" Ben asked. "Recording day." Keanu smiled. "For what?" "A song we'll write together." Ben's eyes widened. "Me, you've changed," Keanu said. "And sometimes, change needs a soundtrack." They sat down with guitars and worked. For hours, Keanu helped shape a melody. Ben wrote lyrics about mistakes, growth, and second chances. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. When they recorded it, Ben's voice trembled. He missed a few lines, but Keanu never stopped playing beside him. And when it was done, they uploaded it to a quiet, unknown channel. No promotion, no hashtags, just one line in the description, for anyone who's trying to be better than they were yesterday. People found it anyway. The comments were full of strangers saying the song made them cry, made them remember who they used to be, made them believe they could change. And Ben, he started believing it too. The song they couldn't ignore. Weeks after the song quietly appeared online, something strange began to happen. People from all over the world started sharing it, not because it was trending, not because it was attached to a celebrity name, but because it felt true. There were no flashy visuals, no celebrity cameos, no music video filled with drama. Just 2 voices, 2 guitars, and one raw message. "You are more than your mistakes." An old man in Poland played it on his street corner while painting portraits. A teenage girl in Brazil used it for her school project on emotional healing. A therapist in Seattle said she played it during sessions to help her clients open up. Soon, reaction videos popped up everywhere. People cried on camera. Not because they knew Ben or Keanu, but because they saw themselves in the lyrics. And yet, Ben kept living his life quietly. He still went to school. He still helped at the community center. He still showed up every week to practice with Keanu in that small, dusty music room. And even though his classmates started to whisper about him again, this time it wasn't cruel. "Hey," a girl named Emily said shyly one day. "Was that really your voice on that song?" Ben nodded. "Yeah," she smiled. "It made me cry." "Thank you." For the first time, Ben didn't need to be funny or loud. His silence had found value. But not everyone was happy. Travis had grown distant. He stopped inviting Ben to hang out, stopped sitting next to him in class. When Ben finally asked why, Travis shrugged. "You think you're better now," he said. Voice low. Ben shook his head. I'm just trying to be better than before." Travis looked away. "You used to laugh at people with me. Now you're hanging with Keanu Reeves like some saint." "I'm not a saint," Ben said softly. "I'm just not pretending anymore." Travis didn't respond. Meanwhile, Keanu remained quiet in the public eye. The press kept digging, trying to trace the video to him officially. News outlets ran stories with blurred screenshots and headlines like, "Was this the most humble performance in Hollywood history?" But every time, Keanu refused to comment. He told Ben one afternoon, as they sat tuning guitars, "Sometimes silence is stronger than 1,000 interviews." Ben nodded. "But don't you ever want to say something, explain why you did it?" Keanu looked out the window at the gray sky. "I didn't do it for them. I did it because I had forgotten who I was. Music reminded me." Then he added, "And you reminded me too." Those words stayed with Ben for days. One morning, Mrs. Lennox called Ben aside after class. She had a box in her hands. "He asked me to give this to you." Inside the box was an old notebook. The pages were yellow, the corners curled from time. On the first page, in neat handwriting, were the words, "Every note carries a piece of you." It was Keanu's personal music journal. Chords, lyrics, sketches, thoughts, regrets, hopes. Ben flipped through it, overwhelmed. "Why would he give me this?" Mrs. Lennox smiled. "Because you gave him something too." Around the same time, the school announced a special performance night, a celebration for community and kindness. It was Principal Ellis's idea. After everything that had happened, she wanted to create a space where students could perform not to impress, but to connect. She asked Ben if he'd perform again. Ben hesitated. He hadn't stepped on a stage since the night he set up Keanu as a joke. The memory of that shame still lingered like a shadow. "I don't know if I can," he told Keanu. They were sitting on the steps outside the community center, watching the sunset. "You can," Keanu said, "but only if you're not doing it for applause." "Then why?" "Because someone in that audience might need to hear what you've been through." Ben thought for a moment. "Will you be there?" Keanu smiled. "Only if you invite me." "I'm inviting you." So on a cool Friday night, the gym filled again. But this time, no one was buzzing with jokes or rumors. There was something softer in the air, quieter. People weren't just excited, they were open. Ben walked backstage and saw familiar faces. Students who had once been afraid to perform were now lining up with poems, piano solos, and artwork. The crowd wasn't there to judge, they were there to listen. When it was Ben's turn, he walked onto the stage with the same guitar he'd borrowed from the center. He looked out into the audience and saw Keanu sitting in the back row, wearing that same quiet hoodie, head slightly bowed. Ben stepped to the mic and said softly, "A while ago, I made a mistake. A big one. I tried to make someone look small so I could feel big. And instead, I found someone who helped me grow." He looked down at his guitar. "This song is for anyone who's ever wished they could start over." He played. It wasn't perfect. His voice cracked once. He missed a chord, but no one cared. His hands trembled, but his heart didn't. The lyrics were raw, about fear, about failing, about choosing to rise anyway. When it ended, the applause wasn't wild. It was gentle, like a hug, like understanding. Ben stepped off the stage and walked straight toward the back of the room. Keanu stood. They hugged. Nothing more was needed. After the show, Travis found Ben near the exit. He looked down at his shoes. Hey, hey. Ben replied, that was real, Travis said. Thanks. Travis scratched his head. I was jealous. You were doing something that mattered, and I wasn't. Ben looked at him for a long moment. You still can. Travis looked up. Really? Yeah. Come to the center. Meet Keanu. Sweep the floors. Start somewhere. And for the first time in weeks, Travis smiled. That night, Ben walked home under the stars. He didn't feel like a joke anymore. He didn't feel like a mistake. He felt like music. A quiet Legasibin's performance at the kindness celebration didn't go viral. There were no news crews, no reporters waiting outside the school, and no social media frenzy like the first time. But something deeper happened. Something real. The next week at school, students began carrying their sketchbooks, guitars, poems, and journals a little more openly. During lunch, a boy with a stutter read a poem to friends under a tree. A girl who used to eat alone started painting tiny hearts on people's notebooks when they weren't looking. No one mocked anyone. No one rolled their eyes. It was like the school had taken a deep breath and finally exhaled. And Ben had changed. He still joked, but with warmth now. He still laughed, but not at people. His confidence no longer came from making others feel small. It came from knowing who he was becoming. He showed up at the community center every week without fail. Sometimes he brought classmates with him. Sometimes it was just him and Keanu, playing quietly in that little music room, stringing together chords and thoughts. One evening, Keanu handed Ben a folded piece of paper. They want us to play somewhere, he said with a small smile. Where? A veterans hospital. Small group, no stage, just chairs and hearts. Ben nodded. I'm in. They arrived at the hospital the next Saturday, carrying nothing but their guitars and a little speaker. The room was quiet. About 12 people, most older. A few in wheelchairs. Some didn't speak. Some barely looked up. But when Keanu and Ben began to play, something shifted. The melody was soft, gentle, like waves touching the shore. The lyrics weren't complicated. They were about time, about grief, about the sound of forgiveness. A woman in the back closed her eyes and smiled. A man with a missing leg tapped his foot. A nurse whispered to Ben afterward, he hasn't responded to music in years. On their way out, a quiet man with a shaky voice stopped Keanu. Were you the one who played at that school? Keanu smiled. I was just part of something bigger. The man nodded. It changed my grandson. Thank you. Keanu didn't reply. He simply put his hand over his heart. As they walked to the car, Ben said, I didn't know this was how healing worked. How's that? By sharing your own. Keanu nodded. Healing travels, like music, like ripples. Not long after that visit, Ben got an unexpected call. It was Principal Ellis. I have someone who wants to speak with you, she said, then passed the phone. Hello, Ben. This is Joan Rivers. Ben froze. The singer. She laughed softly. Yes, I came across your song, and I wanted to ask if you'd like to come play it at my benefit concert. Ben's hands started shaking. Me, you and whoever wrote it with you. Bring your guitar. The theme is hope, and your song fits perfectly. The concert was in a small outdoor venue by the coast, nothing too grand. But still, there would be hundreds of people. Joan told Ben she'd introduce them herself. Ben told Keanu that night, Are you okay with this? It's not going to stay small anymore. Keanu looked at the ocean. Some waves are meant to reach the shore. They rehearsed for 2 weeks straight. Ben worked harder than ever. He practiced his breathing, his timing, his confidence. But still, the night before the concert, nerves took over. He called Mrs. Lennox. What if I mess up? He asked. She paused for a moment. Then you'll teach them something real. The concert day came fast. As Ben stood backstage holding his guitar, he saw the crowd. Not massive, but full. The lights were warm. The air smelled like salt and flowers. Joan Rivers introduced them gently, explaining how a young boy had turned a mistake into music, how an unexpected friendship had sparked a song that touched people far beyond the school gym. Ben walked onto the stage. Keanu followed. No one screamed. No one clapped too loud. They just listened. Ben stepped to the mic. "This song," he said, "was born from shame, from messing up, from wanting to be better. I wrote it with someone who showed me that kindness doesn't need an audience." He looked at Keanu, who nodded softly. They played, and this time, something magical happened. A few lines in, people started singing along, not loudly, not like fans, but gently, like they had known the song forever. Some held hands, some cried quietly. One man closed his eyes and mouthed the words. When they finished, the silence was thick. Then, slow, steady clapping, not rushed, not forced, just true. After the concert, Joan hugged Ben. "Don't stop," she said. "Don't let the world harden you on the ride home." Ben looked out the window and whispered, "I never want to go back to who I was." Keanu said, "You already have it." But the story wasn't done. 2 days later, Ben walked into school and found a letter in his locker. No name, no handwriting he recognized. Just a single page that read, "I made fun of people to feel strong too. Now I'm learning how to play piano because of you." Beneath it was a tiny drawing of a music note. He smiled. A week later, Travis joined him at the community center. Didn't say a word. Just picked up a broom and swept. They didn't need to talk. Something deeper had begun. Not a movement, not a trend. But a quiet legacy. Louder than silence. Months passed. The song that Ben and Keanu had written together slowly found its way into more hearts, not because it was pushed by labels or blasted on radios, but because it was shared. From one person to another, from pain to healing, from guilt to growth. In small towns and big cities, the song was sung in classrooms, therapy circles, hospital lobbies, and even prisons, and each time, it brought something gentle, an invitation to be honest, to start again. Ben had stopped counting the views. He didn't care about the comments anymore. What mattered most was what the song had changed inside him. He walked differently now, slower, steadier. He listened more. He smiled deeper. He no longer felt the need to prove anything. And when people thanked him, he would always say, "It wasn't just me." Because it never was. One rainy morning, Keanu called Ben and said, "I want to show you something." They met at the community center. Keanu led him through the hallway, past the kitchen, past the storage room, and into the music room where it all began. Only this time, the room had changed. On the back wall, in soft paint, were the words, "Kindness doesn't need an audience." Underneath the quote were photos of kids performing at open mic nights, of elders holding guitars, of teens helping at food drives, and in the center, a small plaque in honor of Ben Thomas and the boy who chose kindness over applause. Ben stood frozen. "You made this?" Keanu nodded. "We did." They stood in silence for a moment. The kind that doesn't feel empty but full. Then Ben asked, "So what now?" Keanu smiled. "Now you teach me." "Yeah, it's your turn." And so he did. Ben began leading small music sessions for kids who never thought they could play. He taught them how to listen to the strings, how to feel the notes, how to turn pain into rhythm. He didn't care if they got it perfect, only that they felt it. And every now and then, Keanu would join him, not to lead, just to sit quietly, play along, and remind the kids with his presence that being gentle was never weakness. One day, while packing up after a long session, Ben saw a familiar face at the door. Travis. He was holding a folder. "What's that?" Ben asked. Travis smiled nervously. "Lyrics. I wrote something." Ben blinked. "You want to share it?" Travis looked around. "Only if you play with me." And just like that, the story continued. They played together in that room. Travis stumbled, laughed, got embarrassed, but he kept going. And when he was done, the other kids clapped quietly, not because it was perfect, but because it was brave. Later that night, Ben and Keanu sat on the steps of the center one last time. "Do you think we made a difference?" Ben asked. Keanu looked up at the stars. "I think we made a start." A soft wind blew past them, carrying the sounds of laughter and strings from inside. And somewhere far away, a person who had never met Ben or Keanu heard their song for the first time. Maybe they were hurting. Maybe they felt ashamed. Maybe they thought they had nothing to offer. But the music told them, "You are not your worst moment. You are not the joke someone made you. You are the choice you make next. In a world full of noise, one quiet act of music had become louder than any shout. Because sometimes all it takes is a guitar, an apology, and someone who believes in you. And when that happens, even silence sings.